Good morning. I'm David Breeden. I'm the senior minister at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, a historically humanist congregation, and this is Coffee and Wisdom, where we talk a little bit about the streams of thought and religion and philosophy that have gone into humanist thinking and into American culture that affects the larger humanist movement. And we look a little bit about where we are and where we're going. Yesterday, I started talking about Madame Blavatsky and then the Theosophy Society. Madame Blavatsky is a fascinating human being. If start doing some web searching on her, you'll find all kinds of stuff. Pro, con. Was she a charlatan? Was she not? Was she totally faking it, or did she really think these things were going on when they pretty demonstrably weren't? Fascinating human being, and then set up the Theosophy Society that still exists today and got big after she died in 1891. One of the things that they were looking for in the Theosophy Society was the Lord Maitreya. They got that word from Buddhism. The Maitreya is the next Buddha after the present Buddha, Siddhartha, and who will bring great knowledge and enlightenment to the world. Theosophy took this up. Lord Maitreya, also known as the world teacher with them, or the Christ principle, part of Theosophy that goes into New Age thinking is this idea that everyone can be a Christ, can be enlightened and totally aware in this kind of New Age kind of rebirth kind of way. So that's who they were waiting for. And then we've got Jiddhu Krishnamurti, born in 1895 and a good long life into 1986. He was discovered in South India by members of the Theosophical Society, and he was then proclaimed to be this Maitreya, this world teacher. He was a poor street kid living in India, and one of the Theosophists saw his great aura as this young guy. He was essentially a street urchin, he and his brother. Very sickly kids, starving, and suddenly they were swept away into this very large international movement back at that time. So off they go, he and his brother Nitya, in 1911 to the United Kingdom. Here's a picture of one of the Theosophists taking them to England. And as you see, it's suddenly a big media event that this young man is suddenly thrust into. In 1922, and all this time he's doing training into the Theosophist way of thinking. In 1922, he had a debilitating physical experience that some interpreted as enlightenment, and he would have those episodes for the rest of his life. There's a lot of speculation about Krishnamurti as well, about his life and how actually, he was living up or not living up to his various teachings. One of the interesting things is, as a pattern, is he had these enlightenment experiences when he happened to be staying in the homes of very rich women. Money was one of the things that was keeping the Theosophy Society funded and large at that time. People were giving them homes, land, even a Scottish castle at one point. So the Theosophy Society was very well funded. But one of the things that the Theosophists kept telling Krishnamurti was that his brother would be fine, Nitya, despite the fact that he did have tuberculosis. Suddenly, Nitya dies unexpectedly with the flu, and this sets Krishnamurti into a tailspin of depression. So, at the age of 29, he repudiated his title as the Maitreya and rebelled against the Theosophists, declaring religions and belief systems useless. Now, when he did this in 1929, he was a world-known philosophical figure. And suddenly here's this guy who's been trained and popularized and out in the media, suddenly saying, you know what, all of this is wrong. And this is what he said: I maintain that truth is a pathless land, and you cannot approach it by any path whatsoever, by any religion, by any sect. That is my point of view, and I adhere to that absolutely and unconditionally. Truth, being limitless, unconditioned, unapproachable by any path whatsoever, cannot be organized, nor should any organization be formed to lead or coerce people along a particular path. There is no magnificent deed because I do not want followers. And I mean this, he says. The moment you follow someone, you cease to follow truth, big T truth. Right? I am not concerned whether you pay attention to what I say or not. I want to do a certain thing in the world, and I am going to do it with unwavering concentration. I am concerning myself with only one essential thing: to set man free. I desire to free him from all cages, from all fears, and not to found religions, new sects, nor to establish new theories and new philosophies. So, that's kind of downplaying the idea of theosophy. It can't lead you to truth because nothing can. And suddenly we have this spokesman for this group saying this: nothing can be organized if it's going to lead you to the truth. And then off he goes on his new path. Krishnamurti met and became a friend of Aldous Huxley in 1938. Those of you who've been following along, about 2 weeks ago, I was talking about Aldous Huxley, a popularizer of psychedelic drug use to reach enlightenment, and wrote a book called The Doors of Perception, and also a believer in this pan-religious idea that there's only one mountain and many paths to the truth, and that all religions are somehow going toward the same idea of capital T truth. Krishnamurti had an idea in that ballpark, although you can already see that they're going to have some disagreements. But the fact that these guys got together in California in 1938 is fairly important to the development of a very liberal interpretation of philosophy and religion that's going to go into various kinds of thinking, especially New Age thinking, and of course the Esalen Institute. He also said, understanding of the self only arises in relationship, in watching yourself in relationship to people, ideas, and things, to trees, the earth, and the world around you and within you. Relationship is the mirror in which the self is revealed. Without self-knowledge, there is no basis for right thought in action. This is one of the fascinating things about Krishnamurti is after he separates from the Theosophy Society, he begins to write some very important books, and he travels around doing lectures. And these ideas are difficult to disagree with. Another one, we are to learn about fear, not how to escape from it. So face that fear, get to know it. You don't try to escape it. That's how to beat it. Or probably one of his most famous sayings, begin where you are. In terms of the spiritual enlightenment path, begin where you are. Another important strain that comes into liberal thinking in this time period through Krishnamurti is his friend Dr. David Bohm, a theoretical physicist interested in quantum physics. He lectured against scientism, the overdependence on science and the overdependence on reason, and he was very into quantum physics in the 40s and the 1950s. Here's a book they published together, The Limits of Thoughts, the discussions between them. And this is where the idea that the cutting edge of physics is somehow out there in a very different way of that we are not getting the full story from science itself. So quantum mechanics becomes very important in this way of thinking. When I understand myself, I understand you. And out of that understanding comes love, he says. And you can begin to see also how Krishnamurti's thought really feeds into the entire zeitgeist of the 1960s West Coast America. All ideologies are idiotic, he says, whether religious or political, for it is conceptual thinking, the conceptual word, which has so unfortunately divided man. So if you get a big concept in your head, you're necessarily wrong-headed and also dangerous. And listen to this, if you know Emerson, right down the line here, religion is the frozen thought of man out of which they build temples. That's almost a direct quote from Emerson's great essay called Nature. So yes, transcendentalism at its best, and a very individualist way of doing it. This is probably his most famous quote, and guess what? It's even on a t-shirt and that you can buy. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So there you go. A bit of an attack on the therapeutic nation idea. The enlightened souls don't fit into boxes, right? You can find his books everywhere, and they're great. He was a very good writer. A lot of his stuff was taken directly from lectures and then edited by various disciples and friends. One book, Life Ahead, on learning and the search for meaning, you will notice that none less than the Dalai Lama says one of the greatest thinkers of our age. And that's one of the amazing things about Krishnamurti is he just kept maturing in his thought. Buddhism over here, Hinduism certainly as part of his traditional life, and then Christian mysticism, putting these together, and coming up with a brand new kind of philosophy. Beyond violence, he was very famously a pacifist. He did consult with various Indian prime ministers when he got so famous in the 60s and 70s. Always talking about nonviolence, and again, this idea that the concepts are what make us do these violent things to each other, and those concepts are always false. Again, unlike Madame Blavatsky, his work is very good. There are some problems with the man, since he's been dead a while, things have been coming out about him that are a little bit problematic. But he always said, I don't want to be a guru. I'm only talking for myself. You can listen or not. There is a Krishnamurti Foundation of America. You can look it up online. And there you go. The teachings, programs, visit us, who we are, store, donate. And he's got a brand new book of collected lectures from the past, of course. So fascinating guy, and very, very well worth your read. And as you think along how do we get out of our conventional ways of thinking? So Krishnamurti, very much in the Madame Blavatsky tradition, but then totally leaves that tradition and really leads into some of the contemporary thinking that we still very much consider today. Thanks for listening today, and you can find First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can help us out financially at firstunitarian.org/donate or on PayPal. And I'll see you tomorrow with some more of those streams going into contemporary American cultural thought. Thank you.